Welcome to Season 3, Episode 22 of the Draft Rugby podcast, where we discuss fantasy Super Rugby, the game they play online in heaven. You can find the website at draftrugby.com and get after us on the socials at Draft Rugby. Joining me over Zoom again, I have the boys. Nelson, mate, how are you and how was your weekend?
It was good, mate. It's just more and more of a buzz that Aussie Rugby's around the corner, and there was a few more games on the weekend, so I'm just loving it at the moment.
Fantastic, man. How did your golf go? Did it go about as good as I'm expecting? As good as your fantasy teams have gone in the past? Or
It went surprisingly well, mate. I two-putt everything, no matter how far away it was. My issue is my drive.
What do we say, 17 over for 9 holes?
Yeah, that's good for me. Surprisingly good.
Classic, very good. And also, Harry, mate, how are you? I didn't see either of you on the weekend. So, yes, clearly excited about Aussie Rugby coming up this week.
Mate, very, very excited. And my granddad, also his granddad, turned 95 on the weekend, which is pretty awesome.
Wow, that is something. That's a good innings right there.
Pretty old.
Maybe you should ask for some draft, help.
Well, the takeaway is that you're stuck with us for a long time.
Oh dear. Well, anyway, that brings us to, apart from being excited about Aussie Rugby starting back up, we are, of course, very excited because we have our own fantasy draft this week on Thursday. It's kind of like, I feel like it's, we're getting like a second Christmas this year. And it's kind of similar to Christmas in July. It's just a shittier Christmas. And by that, I mean, it's just like a shorter season. And, there's disruptions and whatnot. But still, you take your second Christmas. I'm so excited. Draft day is best day of the year.
This is the greatest Christmas of all for Nelson. He's going to go from last to back to even.
Mate, my team,
after looking at the hat trick of losses, down the barrel of a hat trick of losses, to all being on par again.
Actually, I hadn't really thought about that. That's fantastic, because if he loses again, then he's lost twice this year, and it just makes that loss even better, really. So
no one's lost this year, mate.
That's fantastic.
In fact, I think I was probably drawn last. Worst points for against.
All right, don't make us bring up the stats, Nels, because we'll crush you. But no, all right, now look, how about moving on swiftly? A very quick platform update. So yes, with our draft, so we do our draft on Thursday night, which generally means all the lineups are out 2 days or a day before the games, which should be good. But yes, what we're hoping to do for the draft for our platform, we're hoping to have up the ability to play the most basic version of the game that has eluded us for quite a while. And by that, I mean, you should be able to log on, create an account, create leagues, invite your friends. You should be able to...
Which you can do now, by the way.
Sorry, you can do that now. Very good. Add players to your team. You should be able to see all of your all the teams in your league. So add and remove players. Every week, you'll be able to see your team and your players' scores. You'll be able to see your fixtures, so your fantasy team's fixtures for the season, and set those. And you'll be able to see the table. So, for Nelson, he doesn't even have to look at the table because he always knows where he is at the bottom. It's fine. But, for those of you who do move up and down. So we're hoping to have the basic functionality in place. It's going to be interesting with the stats coming in this week. The few challenges we'll face are things like, first of all, who are some of the new players in the force? So there'll be some new players. Also having two different rugby competitions, merging the stats in to getting the scores. So we're not just getting stats from one feed. But look, we're super excited to kind of get a roll on. We've done a lot of the important infrastructure, a lot of the stuff you can't see in setting up this platform.
Yeah, look, I think
we should be able to.
It's a great opportunity. I think it's not really been done, a fantasy platform with a few different competitions going. We think there's going to be some positives coming out of it. I think it's just a great opportunity. There's no one else doing it at the moment. We've had a real buzz on social media. A lot of the guys from Fantasy Rugby TV, things hitting us up. So, on our end, we're really excited. Things are better than they've ever been for us. So I'm really, really excited to be able to release this and get people on board and keep building from there.
Yeah, probably the two bits of advice that I would have is, number one, bear with us is probably the most important one from our point of view. We have got Hugh working his ass off. He's an absolute legend, our website engineer. And, he's even put some extra time aside on his Sunday to try and fix a couple of little small issues that some of the managers that are involved on the website already have brought up. But he's busting ass to try and get this thing going as well as possible. My best advice would be just save your team lineups and things each week, just in case there is a problem with the website, because it definitely is a beta version rolling out as we go. We hope that there's no problems, and Hugh's a wizard, so he's very good at fixing some of those problems, but definitely back things up. And then the last thing is, we've been getting a few questions about some of the positioning questions for some of the players. And there's obviously, we've discussed a lot between the three of us, the fact that there is not a lot of extra players up for grabs for each manager when you've got 8 teams playing every week and 8 managers playing every week. So we're basically going to play people in the positions they are as of now. So the Aussies, wherever they get named, that's the position they are. For example, let's say Will Harrison, the Waratahs fly half, if they name him at inside centre, he's going to be a centre. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but that would be a good example.
It won't happen.
Mitch Hunt, there's a good expectation that Mitch Hunt is going to be moved to fullback this week with Josh Ioane coming back in. Mitch Hunt becomes
Spoiler alert.
Lock him in at fullback. Bowden Barrett, fullback. He's an outside back. He's not a 10, So definitely that's one of those things that we'll announce as late as possible, but expect it to be whatever position they're named in.
Yep. Fantastic. No, that's a good update. And certainly get after us with your questions at Draft Rugby. We're loving them. And also, if you haven't checked it out, at Draft Rugby Dev as well, where Hugh constantly is providing development updates. So very good. All right, let's get into the meat and veg. Let's get into the menu for the pod tonight. So as per standard for Entree, we're going to review Super Rugby Aotearoa Round 3. For main course, we're going to preview Round 4, or we're going to call it Fantasy Round 1. So we're going to preview Super Rugby AU Round 1 and Super Rugby Aotearoa Round 4, which is fantastic. We have 4 games coming up, so how good. And then for dessert, we're going to do a quick preview of the Super Rugby AU, and I guess what else are we going to do in that, guys?
We're just going to basically say what we think how they're going to rank at the end of this season, 1 through to 5, and pick the guys we think that might shine. There's a few guys that already put their hand up early on in the season, but I think this is a great opportunity. Head-to-head Wallaby, potential, so it'll be good.
Yeah, and I guess any further player movements that we haven't captured in the preview, and there's definitely a lot of new names out there that people might not have heard of. So,
yep.
Excellent. All right, without further ado, let's jump into the entree. So, Super Rugby Aotearoa Round 3, the Highlanders Highlanders didn't have the bye. I'm fairly sure I watched them play. So, we haven't updated
Hurricanes had the bye.
Hurricanes had the bye. And in the first fixture this week, we had the Blues taking on the Highlanders. And who wants to jump in and start us on this one?
Yeah, look, I'll happily start. The Blues took this one 27-24, 4 tries to 3. I think we all tipped that. The Blues have been doing well. In the returns column, Nani Punavai, who was an ex-Crusaders player, he made his debut. For injuries, Sam Gilbert, it looks like he did his ACL.
He didn't make his debut. He'd been playing in Super Rugby in the first 7 rounds. But still a young gun, absolutely.
We made his return. Yeah.
That knee injury. I mean, they haven't announced anything, but the mechanism, watching it, like it's ACL all day long.
Yeah, it looked pretty bad.
That was on Sam Gilbert. That one we're talking about.
Yeah, that's right. I watched it about 6 times in my physio clinic today.
You just have it on loop in the background. When new patients walk in, that's all they say.
Right. Sort of a few points out of this one. The Highlanders seem to be a whole lot better at Super Rugby Aotearoa than they did early on in the year. Their defence seems more organised. Their set piece seems stronger. So they actually seem to be a little bit more of a threat, even though they didn't take this one. While the Blues, their kicking game's been a huge difference maker for them. Terry Black's been extremely accurate with his kicking. A decent short game with Bodie Barrett and Sam Knock, who I don't know for me if he's their 9 for the rest of the year.
I like Finlay Christie.
I like Finlay Christie. What are you going to say?
I don't mind knock, but I'll jump in. I thought there was a cool stat to do with the kicking. I just saw on Twitter recently. I've committed the cardinal sin of forgetting who to shout out here, but Bodie Barrett's kicking, which has been fantastic. But he's been kicking out of hand in this competition. 33% of his kicks have been with his off foot, with his left foot. And last weekend, 45% of his kicks were with his off foot. So he's truly, I was going to say ambidextrous, but Nelson, the podiatrist, is there a word for ambi feet?
I'm gonna go with ambidextrous.
Yeah, there's not. I actually looked it up. I was testing.
I think it's just ambidextrous.
Ambipedal or something. That's
there you go.
I thought I was testing you, but still, anyway, he's that good that you couldn't tell like which way he's kicking. But
yeah. No, to be honest, I was more impressed with the Terra Black's kicking game in this one. I thought it was absolutely exceptional. Bodie was still solid, but there was one or two aimless kicks still from him. I don't. We've been saying on this pod week in, week out that a Terra Black, if you put Bodie Barrett in there, you gain a lot, but you don't lose anything. But probably the one thing I would say is Black's kicking has been excellent. Kicking for goal, I think he's over 90%. Or maybe just under now. I think he missed another one on the weekend. And in play is exceptional.
He's also, if this was Rugby AU, he kicked a few on the weekend, the 50-22s, and made it look extremely easy. So it'll be interesting to see how teams have to defend that in the Australian version of this season.
I'm very excited for that rule, yeah.
The stuff that I wanted to look at was the outside backs in this game. So first of all, you can't go past Mr. Caleb Clark. The news story going around was that his grandfather passed away that morning, was it?
Yeah, earlier that day.
Which is obviously pretty tough for anyone, and he just absolutely killed it. He played out of his skin and said it was for his granddad. So that was pretty awesome. And he just keeps getting better and better and better. The tucked in shirt, I think, just sells it for me. It just looks wrong, especially when you got an ass and legs that powerful and that big. But yeah, very good from him.
He just looked like an extremely mature young man as well. He was interviewed after the match, and it was quite an emotional interview, to be fair, if you were watching it. But he's got his head on straight. He's committed to his rugby. He's committed to his team, and it's great to see, as well as his religion, to be honest.
And more importantly, he's a weapon. He is an absolute beast. I love him.
What was it? A cross between his father and Nonu. Nonu was one of the calls on Twitter.
Mate, I reckon he makes Martin Nonu look a little bit small. He's got those Jonah Lomu thighs, mate. Have you seen those thighs, mate? He's enormous.
No, mate, he doesn't make Martin Nonu look small.
That's a stretch.
Right, on the other side of things, though, Scott Gregory, I think he had an absolute shocker. First of all, he absolutely spilled a few bombs in a row. He knocked on some other balls as well. And then in that first half as well, he tried to kick a ball from inside his own try line and just kind of waited a little bit too long. Got it charged down by Hoskins Tutu. Who else would it be?
Oh, yeah.
And Bolton Papali'i just kind of fell into the breadbasket for him, and he dove over, and it was just kind of like the icing on the cake for a pretty sad night for him. I thought he was probably worse than old mate last week.
And also just for every opportunity to talk about Caleb Clark, it was fantastic. They're both Sevens teammates, and after Gregory made that kick and they scored the try, Caleb Clark was running in and just kind of grabbed him, pulled him into the huddle celebrating, which was fantastic. But there was also, they kept kicking those bombs to him all night, Gregory. And there was one I remember where, as he caught it, Caleb Clark absolutely smashed it. So he was having a tough night for sure.
So that took it to 22-10 at halftime.
Yeah, it was an interesting second half. The Highlanders fought back with 2 converted tries in only a short period of time, 13 minutes. Shannon Frizzell driving over pretty much, wasn't it?
Ran like post-contact meters.
Yeah.
It's like 5 to 10 meters. Huge.
Yeah, and Mitch Hunt's his little try as well. He what did he do? He just found the gap, turned on the afterburners and slid through.
Show and go.
Yeah, big step, little dart. Yeah, he looked really good, I thought.
Yeah. So they actually blew out to a lead. They're taking it 24-22 after being down 22-10. But yeah, Mitch Hunt, we were talking about him after the game. He was not only their best player at times, he was their worst player at times. So that try was absolutely brilliant. A few things he did early was absolutely brilliant.
That short ball as well, shortly after that try, where he put, I think it was one of the props.
Yeah, just straight through a gap.
Almost scored again.
But yeah, he had a bomb that went straight out. He had a few silly little plays, a few poor reads in defence. And he took that weirdest thing in the match, a guy that's really composed normally at the back end of the game. And he had I think it was a 72nd minute or so. They had the advantage and they were 3 points down. So he decided, first of all, that he would go for the drop kick.
With the penalty.
With the penalty advantage.
Yeah.
So that's the time you chance your arm and you go for the try. Then when they actually got the penalty awarded because he missed the kick, they then decided to go for the try, even though that's probably the time you want to settle, take the points. And I mean, this is a game where you don't get a draw. It goes into extra time. So it was probably even more valuable in that sort of sense. And they went for the try and they got the line out turned over. So it was just a really couple minutes of just strange decisions there. And that was definitely headed by Mitch Hunt with that drop kick. I thought it was very strange.
Not only was that a weird decision, but I thought it was a bit telling from Aaron Smith that he lost a bit of composure as well.
Yep.
To me, I read that as him being really frustrated by the fact that Mitch Hunt took the shot at goal and went, "You idiot, we should have gone for touch. We should have had a crack at them." And then doing it when he probably shouldn't have straight afterwards when there was no second guess. And then they turned the line out over. So the execution from the Highlands pretty poor.
I think the last point out of this one was it was the first of the two matches this week, and it showed the difference with penalties. The penalty count was 17. I think it was 11-6, which is half the games pretty much, roughly half the penalties in the games previously, especially in that week one.
And I think they cleaned up what they were talking about as well. You know, they said that they wanted to give more benefit to the attacking team. I think there was only one moment where I thought they were a little hard done by on someone diving over the ball in this game as well. So really, I think the refs refereed it very, very well.
Yep.
I think it was quite a while until the first penalty. There was which was refreshing, you know. I think it was a good 25, 30 minutes. I could be wrong. But, that was great. All right, on to the match stats. They were pretty even. In the end, it was 54 to 46% possession. So both had plenty of time to take their chances. The only really big difference were the meters. So the Blues 397 run meters to 262. So they just used more of their ball. And yet, I mean, they had some fantastic runners. Caleb Clark really opening up the field. Tackle bust 17 to 15. So there were quite a lot of busts. Line breaks 6 to 4. So it was good seeing. Was it raining the first half, or was it just dewy? I can't remember. It was raining.
Dewy, yeah, we were expecting it to be rainy, but it looked like it was really slippery. Like there were a lot of handling errors.
It looked like it must have been oil on the ball. Like
someone soaked them up to try and stop the bugs transferring for coronavirus.
I was at the pub for this one, so I can't be sure, but there couldn't have been more handling errors than the next game, I think. But,
there was a lot though.
You reckon? Okay. Very good. All right, Nels, do you want to take us through the fantasy points for this one?
Yeah, I think this shows why the Blues got it done. It was actually a pairing of man of the matches. Dalton Papali'i from the forward pack and Caleb Clark on the wing, flanker and winger, both getting 63 points. Dalton Papali'i got 2 tries from his 9 runs, 41 metres. He had 2 line breaks, an offload, and he made 9 tackles. Caleb Clark, absolute freak. This guy got 1 try assist, 7 runs for 77 metres, made 2 line breaks, made an offload. He made 2 turnovers as a winger. That's probably coming from his sevens history there, but he was an absolute freak.
And just on the point of Dalton Papali'i as well, he spends more time on the wing than Caleb Clark anyway, doesn't he? So if he keeps getting starts, I think he's a smoky, good loose forward pick, isn't he?
Quite potentially.
He's gone from strength to strength as well. I think he's fantastic. Blake Gibson. We've said see a champ about 50 times, Blake Gibson, but see a champ.
Yeah, I agree. For the Blues, Alex Hodgman got 48 points, which is a pretty good showing, especially for him. While the Highlanders, Marino Makieli Tu'u got 48 points, Shannon Frizzell got 45, Aaron Smith got 40. Interestingly, Hoskins Tutu got 35 or so. He didn't even crack that, 40-point buffer, even though he had quite a strong game. But I think it is worthwhile noting that McArdle Tu'u also had a really solid game.
Yeah, that was
number 8 for the team of the week.
Yeah.
We said we were excited about that back row matchup, and they did deliver. I think,
yeah, Shannon
a lot of
Frizzell
hard running from all of them.
Shannon Frizzell must have been listening when you talked junk about him last week, mate.
16 out of 16 tackles, I think I saw from him. I can't believe you didn't mention that. Huge.
He wasn't in the match.
Very good.
Great try as well. That's probably the best game I've seen him play in a while.
If you think about it, apart from talking up, we're excited to see that game. That really is a battle of 4 prospective people putting their hands up for the All Blacks number 8 jersey. So if you wanted to make a statement, that would be the time, really. Well, very good. I think that'll do us for that game. Let's take us on to the Sunday fixture. We had the Crusaders at home taking on the Chiefs. Harry.
Yeah, so the Crusaders hadn't lost at home for 167 years. And in this one, the streak continues. Crusaders 18 to the Chiefs 13. Only 2 tries to 1 in what was actually a pretty tight affair, the entire game, I think. Returning, you had Sam Cane back. They proved me wrong. They gave him a cortisone injection last week, and I said, if that's for a nerve, he's in big trouble. But obviously it wasn't, because he's not in big trouble. He's completely fine.
He's come back from a broken neck. He's immune to pain, obviously.
That's fair. I didn't consider that. On top of that as well, you had a couple of people pulled relatively late. You had Va'i, the lock was pulled with sickness kind of midweek. Solomon Alamalo got injured. No, sorry, was named, but then got pulled 30 minutes pre-game. For Ateni and Nanai Saturo, also due to sickness, not the COVID I've heard. And Mitch Karpik came on and within a few minutes got a concussion as well. Poor guy.
Yeah. Sam Cane thought he was getting a rest, but no, he was brought back on.
Yeah, that's right. Sam Cane, like you said, he doesn't feel pain. So just play 75 minutes champ.
That's it.
A couple of interesting things out of this one was seeing, as you said, Nanai Saturo come on. He actually got the jump over Sean Stevenson. I don't think he earned it. Did you guys think he did much when he was there, or did he capitalize?
He did a couple of good things. He had a couple of good touches. Yeah.
He wasn't as exciting as he has been in other chances. And I mean, this is a short season.
I thought he was solid. I saw him bump someone. He made some good space. He didn't get a lot of chance, to be honest.
And he made 1 or 2 really good defensive plays in terms of he got back into the space they were going to kick a few times. It was very important.
Oh, fair enough. I'll let my word. He beat 1 defender. He ran 52 meters, and he made 4 tackles. So
that's stats.
If that's good for you guys, that's good. All right. And another interesting thing was Bradley Slater. He was handed the start over Tokiaho, a guy that has absolutely killed it whenever he's had an opportunity. You don't really rest guys against the Crusaders, so I can't take anything out of it. Then they were giving that they just didn't think he had the spot locked down.
But you don't leave the Ferrari parked in the garage. I don't know what they're doing there. Tugio is fantastic in all facets of the game, as far as I'm concerned.
They must really rate Bradley Slater, because in the first iteration of Super Rugby this year as well, Slater did get a couple of runs as well. So they obviously think he's a real prospect, and someone's got to take that starting jersey in the next couple of years. I think it'll be up for grabs, so they're giving him an opportunity.
Is it just me, or does he look like a far less impressive Nathan Harris? And Nathan Harris already doesn't look very impressive. So
he looks white, and he's a hooker. Maybe similar coloured hair. Is that what you're going for?
Oh, he's the same frame, and he just doesn't do anything that excites me. I mean, look, that's pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah, he's no flair about him. Bit pudgy around the edges.
Look, he's young. Give him time.
Yeah.
He's not Dane Coles, I'll give you that.
He's not Dane Coles. But something out of this match that I thought was I don't know. It's I don't want to read too much into Aaron Cruden. He made so many silly decisions, made quite a few turnovers, like losing the ball. It was a game for him where he looked like all this weight was on his shoulders, and he thought he had to make the Chiefs win this one. And he just seemed to crack under that pressure. Harry was frothing on the fact that he did a step once.
Yeah, mate, I was going to say, so did I. It looked like he turned the clock back. I was like, sorry, what? Is this 6 years ago? He's taking it to them.
Straight into contact.
Yeah.
As well.
I want him, though, as well. I was like, what's going on?
Nelson rightly said that no one fell for it, but it looked good.
He stepped into Michael Alaalatoa. Like, he didn't have a round or anything, just straight into the guy. So,
there was once he made a line break, I swear, didn't he? He must have made one.
He did, yeah, he did. But then he threw an offload. He threw an offload to no one after that.
Yeah, that's right.
Richie Moanga's hands. So.
He did a couple of good things, but it was just he seemed stressed.
It's the kind of play that if he was 20 years old and playing, you would have gone. It was a really immature performance from a guy with a lot of potential. That's how I looked at it.
Maybe he's been reborn after COVID. Maybe that's what it is. He's a new man.
10-3, half-time, only one try, and that was to Will Jordan, again on the back of Sevu Reece just kind of doing all the work. I think it was a crossfield kick from Richie Moe, kicked it, I think
So.
And it was that little chip over the top. Damien McKenzie jumped for it and just completely fluffed it. Sevu Reece through the line, Will Jordan support. Those two are just phenomenal together, so electric. Really, really good seeing them.
The Crusaders really use, with Richie, they use the kick interchangeably with the pass. Like, he's that accurate. It's unbelievable.
His short kicking game is outrageous. And the damage it's doing to defensive lines is crazy. I think they're the only team in the world who have a good answer to line speed at the moment. The only team in the world. And I'm counting South Africa, I'm counting England. They play physical. But Richie Moanga's kicking game, they turn him around and they put everyone on the back foot. It's crazy.
I agree. I would like to watch the Crusaders play the Springboks. I'm all for that.
R.I.P. Springboks.
Didn't they at the World Cup?
But yeah, fair. Okay, no, that's good.
Yeah, that's right.
And they won actually. So yeah.
Look, on the back of the halftime break, yet again, Sevu Reece and Will Jordan scored another try. This one, Nelson and I, we had a bit of a discussion about there was a tap on, I think, was that the Aaron Cruden tap on? It was. Aaron Cruden tapped the ball onto absolutely nobody. Ball went out. Sevu Reece picked it up from in the middle of the signs and quickly saw Will Jordan coming down the short side. Threw the quick line out. Jordan went over and scored the try untouched. Well, Aaron Cruden was busy arguing with the ref that he tapped the ball into no one and it was the Crusaders' fault.
Great opportunist try. And, I mean, it showed a difference of attitude there. You know, the Crusaders were always ready to attack and keep fighting for this game. And the Chiefs just were distracted. I think it was they weren't switched on to stop that. That's something that you've always got to be ready. If the ball goes out, and there's a potential, you've got to be able to stop and prepare for that line out or prepare for an intercept.
I got the feeling, let's see what you guys think. In the pre-game, they were talking a lot about how the Chiefs just find a way to get under the Crusaders' skin, like no one else can, with a bit of niggle. And I feel like they just weren't able to do that this time. They just couldn't seem, nothing they were doing was unsettling the Crusaders, it kind of felt like, in the first half at least.
Yeah. Yeah, and what did you think of Cullen Grace's, first two games of Super Rugby Aotearoa as well, Craig?
Mate, I barely noticed he was playing. No, just comparatively, he's been pretty quiet.
I think Blackhat has been quite good off the bench. He's surprised me a little bit as someone that we haven't seen a lot of as an Australian rugby fan. He's been really good. It wouldn't surprise me if he actually gets a start.
I think one thing out of this, it shows there's been quite a bit of time for good teams, good coaching staff to be able to understand how certain players play. We always talk about the second-year syndrome for a lot of players. They make their breakout season, then teams have times to understand how they play, and they can actually put things in place to shut them down a little bit more. And maybe that's what we're seeing here. Maybe we're seeing a second-year syndrome, but it's all within the same year because of this coronavirus. There's been months in between that teams could understand how he plays. Maybe he's not as confident rolling into this one. A few different things happened. When you're fighting for your position, it might be a slightly different attitude as well. Maybe there's just a few little factors that are going in there together where he's getting read a little bit better.
I thought maybe it's no Tom Christie. So Cullen Grace's game was so good as a running player, but Tom Christie was making 20-odd tackles a game, 18 tackles a game.
All the tackles.
And making every single one. So, you know, obviously Billy Harmon's a little bit more of an attacking player compared to Christie. And maybe that weight has just shifted back to Cullen Grace as the 6 to be the physical defender as well.
I think it seems like he's definitely been told that's his role, I'd say.
Yeah. Why?
Well, I think when he burst onto the scene in the first half of the season, they didn't expect him to play. Like, I think there was a few injuries. So then he came on, and it was just kind of like an open canvas. Like, try your best, do whatever you want, son.
He made 19 tackles on the weekend.
Grace did. Yeah, wow.
Yeah, he's a good player. Don't get us wrong, but yeah, he's just not standing out as much. After 63 minutes, this was a really interesting stat. I suppose it's talking a little bit more of wet weather footy, and the ball was a little bit sloppy, a little bit wet. But the stat was based on where the balance of the teams were in attack, where they were playing off, where they're playing off the 9, the 10, the 15. For the Crusaders, they were playing off the 9 70% of the time. They're playing off the 10 20% of the time, and the fullback 10% of the time. For the Chiefs, it was pretty similar numbers: 66% off the 9, 22% off the 10, 12% off fullback. So it just shows that the game shortened up, tightened up a fair bit. Yet you still get to see, you know, the tries were out wide. It was the wingers scoring for the Crusaders, and there was a lot of opportunity out on the wings. So I just thought that was quite interesting.
Yeah, it felt like a lot more shovel ball just with the wet weather, for sure.
Yeah. Or kicking if you're a Moanga.
So 18 points to 3, reasonably late into the game. And then the Chiefs finally started to find their mojo. So obviously fitness isn't their problem. They finished much stronger, I thought, than the Crusaders. But having said that, obviously the Crusaders probably felt like the job was done. They scored the last 10 points, a penalty and a converted try. And Damien McKenzie, Sean Wainui, Teni Nano Saturu, I thought all 3 of the back 3 players really came into their own. And Sean Wainui did what Sean Wainui does, and that is score tries out of nothing as well. Just continuing to impress me. I don't know I don't know how he's as good as he is. That's the honest truth. But he's really effective.
Say it like it is, Harry. You don't like his face. But somehow he just seems to kill it.
I don't think it's anything to do with it. I think it's just, he's grown on us. I feel like the reason we didn't like him is because he came into the Chiefs as kind of an extended squad player. And then we just always felt like when he was on, he was taking up the space, which could have been some other player that we loved.
They always had the flair, right? They always had Masaturo, they had D-Mac, they had Pulu, they had Alamalo. They always had this flair, and he just didn't fit that role. And he's probably something that they need in their back 3. They need that stable, solid player, settle things down, run it in tight, and do his job.
He's the Kiwi Rob Horn. That's how we described him on the weekend.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
He's out of his skin in a position that he just doesn't seem to fit.
Just works hard.
So
that's very good.
My favourite stat looking at these first 2 games, now that we get into the back end of this one, was the penalties from the first 3 rounds of Super Rugby. Nigel Yeldon, everyone knows at Nigel Yeldon, everyone knows him. Total penalties for Super Rugby Aotearoa in the first 3 rounds. Number 1, you had 58 penalties in the 2 games. Round 2, 49 penalties. And round 3, 33 penalties. So huge improvement in this one. 8 each, so 16 total, the lowest so far. And the flow of the game was good despite the handling errors and the horrendous weather.
I'll point out one thing that I did notice in the game, and I did see people talking about it, is the Crusaders did seem to slow that ball down a fair bit. They were lying on the ball a lot more than in the previous 2 weeks when teams just couldn't get away with it. So, I mean, that's probably a positive for them, you know, like if the ref's not pinging it, slow it down. But there's going to have to be some form of balance. We liked the fact that the game flowed, that there was benefit to the attacking team, but there was a few occasions I think the Crusaders really should have been pinged for slowing things down there.
You answered my question. I was going to say, what percentage do we attribute that to a change in refereeing versus a change in playing style? And I think it's clearly been a change in refereeing. I think the message has come down from the top.
In the attacking side, I agree with you. But defensively, I think teams are clearing the ball very, very quickly. I don't think you're seeing any tackler getting anywhere near the ball. There was only one occasion I could think of, and it didn't get pinged on the weekend.
I don't necessarily think that that's too much of a factor. I think last week the big issue was the defensive team, as soon as they touched the ball, they got the penalty awarded to them. The player was holding on. So, I mean, as a flanker, you're not going to go, well, they gave us penalties non-stop for touching a ball when we didn't deserve it. Let's stop doing that. You know, I don't think it was necessarily the influence of making the choice not to go for that. I think it was just they were policing a little bit differently.
Surely at some point, the referees need to acknowledge what everyone knows, and that is the Crusaders will give away penalties in their own 22 no matter what happens to stop a try being scored, and they need to concede more yellow cards. At some stage, someone has to actually say they do it every single time they're down here for the last 5 years.
Yep.
I think that's fair. All right, and now look, before I move on to the match stats, the last point I was going to say, I'm not sure if we already brought it up and I just tuned out, but D-Mac, I think he's been looking better and better with each week. So just kind of more of those probing runs. You know, when I say probing runs, it genuinely involves him running directly across field and then picking some line to just turn at a sharp angle and hit it. I've been very excited by that.
He had his worst statistical match. So you're basing this off
39.
Yeah. No, but less line breaks and run meters, all this sort of stuff. He's probably doing more of what we expect in terms of we can visually see him doing things, maybe less controlling the side and things like that. Is that how you?
That's what I mean. I feel like he's back to probing, to trying to find, to trying to really create stuff. And it feels like he just doesn't have the support men. People aren't running lines off that like they normally would. I really want to see Alaalatoa back in there because he is a gun at turning up in the right place.
And we all know he will be next week. But I thought that was in the last 20 minutes for Mackenzie. You know, he started, but he did a lot of sideways running, trying to find space. And the Chiefs' defensive line was very good. There was nothing there for them. So, you know, still 60 minutes of him not really.
Why was the Chiefs' defensive line trying to stop him?
Crusaders line is what he meant. Very good. All right, we'll so into the
trying to stop Dean there.
Yeah, that's true. It's like he's like Kobe on the field. He just sees all the opposition.
That's right.
Out of pass to anyone. Very good. All right. For match stats, the Crusaders, they don't need the ball to beat you. So they had 38% possession.
Wow.
And amazingly, they passed the ball half as many times. So 88 passes to 162.
Nice.
So clearly D-Mac was passing too much. That's all I'll say. But territory, similar story, 37% to 63%. Chiefs had almost 70%, 69% in the second half. So Crusaders just do what they do and they just pin you down and don't let you through. I don't know how they do it. But tackle bust, 14 to the Crusaders, 21 to the Chiefs. Line breaks was the only difference, 5 to the Crusaders and 2 to the Chiefs. Chiefs led in offloads, even on penalties. So, yes, the Crusaders definitely didn't favour that. They just don't need the ball. I think we've always said the Highlanders are the team that don't need the ball to hurt you in recent years, but Crusaders very much the same.
Absolutely. Their defence is just so strong.
Better game management, better defence.
Richie Rose, kicking game. Cody Taylor was the fantasy man of the match with 58 points, so no massive scores in this one. 4 runs for him for 26 metres, so not huge. He had a tackle bust, a line break, a turnover, but made 14 of his 15 tackles. And, you know, that's important to note going into round 1 of draft rugby this week, that your front rowers with a big work rate, they do make double the points on their tackles as well. So that's where his points really came from.
Bonus point there, Mikey Alaalatoa also made 14 of 14 tackles. So,
big unit.
Good man.
And also from the Crusaders, Will Jordan got 50, as you'd expect, with a couple of tries. I actually thought he probably would have been the man of the match because of that, but didn't quite get in there. And Sam Whitelock, 41 points as well, not normally a huge fantasy scorer, so good from him to score some points as well. From the Chiefs, no one cracked the magic 40 mark, but Brad Weber and D-Mac did get 39.
Which is basically a fail in the book of D-Mac.
100%.
So, yeah.
You said it was his best game.
Not statistically. So, yes, moving on. All right, that concludes our entree. Let's get stuck into the main course, and we can talk about 4 games coming up this weekend. How good. But first off, the buys. So in Super Rugby Aotearoa, the Blues have the buy this week. So how good for them. They've gone in 3-0 and they get a rest week to regather. So very good.
2 weeks
And-
for Crusaders.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need that. I feel like you need that. And the Force are the first team with the buy Super Rugby because I guess Rugby Australia wants to prevent them from playing as long as possible. You know what I mean? It's like, just can we put it off another week or something?
Trying to give them some time, maybe.
That's it. But anyway, kicking us off on Friday night, we have the Reds and Waratahs, the old foes, up in Queensland. And who wants to rip in on that?
So injuries for this one, you've got Brendan Payenga Amosa coming back from his ankle injury. I expect him to be on the bench behind Alex Murphy. They haven't confirmed that he will play, but just time frames from when he went down, it makes complete sense unless something was horribly wrong, which I don't think it is. And Hunter Faisami as well, that basically confirmed that he's been training fully with the squad since everyone's been back from his MCL knee injury, the ligament on the inside of the knee there. So good to hear that he should be starting in the centres as well. Yep. Returning
about him.
Changes to the squad mainly. You got Curtly Beale and Damien Fitzpatrick. Damien Fitzpatrick has retired. I would have loved to see him play, to be honest. But
He's been solid.
Yeah. So, I think he came out and said, I won't be remembered for being spectacular, but hopefully people know that I gave everything. And I 100% agree with that. I think he's an excellent, excellent player, underrated, and really happy that he was on our side as a Waratahs fan. Yep.
What a turnaround! What a turnaround, though. Just because he said at the start of the year he was stoked, he'd been playing some of his best footy, and with a new Wallabies coach, he was really hoping that this could be the final shot. I mean, he had an injury-plagued career, but I wonder what's going on there.
It was a long time away from footy, and the body is going to respond differently to you returning to that, and how much work he did off that period of time, and maybe just got too much.
He also weighs about 80 kilos for a hooker. That could be his problem.
It's true. I can donate him some, mate. All this time off has not done well for me. So.
Curtly Beale has been released early to go to Racing 92 or Racing. Henry Spate is gone, released early as well. Where did he go? Do you remember?
No, he went to France or something.
He went to France. Yeah. He's just moving. He's just following the sunshine. He moves up to Queensland, gets some sun, and now he's like, "Nah, it's winter. Soz France. Let's do it."
Very well documented by that Isaac Rodder, Harry Hawkins, and Isaac Lucas all gone for the Reds as well.
The Reds didn't need them, did they? No,
they got plenty of locks. Yeah, look, this is the first match of Super Rugby AU, something we're extremely keen for. Friday night footy, something that's going to be good to have back. I've missed it the last few weeks, that's for sure, especially now that I'm not working Fridays. That's new, that's good. It's going to be Wallaby potential versus Wallaby potential, Hooper versus Wright, Angus Bell versus Tupou, Gordon versus McDermott. This is going to be exciting. This used to be a fixture that they called Battle of the Border. There was lots of blood, there was lots of sledging, there was lots of anger. And it's been something that's been lost a little bit in recent years, I think. But New South Wales have taken the first shot at trying to bring it back. They've brought in Paul Gallen, who's a long-term New South Wales State of Origin player from Rugby League. He's come and had a chat to the younger players and things like that about the hate for New South Wales and hate for Queensland, and trying to build up that.
You beef that one up.
Match. These are matches that you used to remember, like Croft and Phil Ward pouring blood by the end of the game, and hopefully we're seeing some anger back in this one.
I remember Gallen, he came into the physio clinic because I'm down near the Sharkies the day after State of Origin round 3 a couple of years ago, and his head had been cut open. He was battered and bruised. He looked like he'd been indebted a boxing match. It was just insane. So I'm hoping that he can inspire just a little bit of that aggression and physicality in the Waratahs players.
There's lots of mates in these two teams, so hopefully they want to smash each other.
And I love this chat, boys, but that's far too much talk on rugby league, so let's move along.
So look, this is a match that I think one of the reasons why it's lost some of that the aggression and emotion behind it is the Waratahs have just dominated this for a really long period of time. They've actually won 11 matches in a row, which is absolutely crazy. The last time they actually lost was the first game back from that Lions tour in 2013. So generally, there's been high-scoring matches, especially in recent years. But I don't think it's going to necessarily go all the way of the Waratahs this one. So it'll be interesting to see.
It'd be some effort for the Waratahs to come back and beat the Reds in Queensland this year with how they were both teams were looking before the break. But look, they're actually the two worst performing sides in our opinions when we were discussing this in Super Rugby from the Australian Conference. The Reds technically sitting above the Rebels, but had played an extra game and were even on points and had one less win as well. The Reds, they really sold in patches, had an excellent game against the Crusaders over in New Zealand where they managed to blow a lead. But they still just, for us, they don't know how to win. Yeah. They don't know how to win those close moments. So it's a little bit like the Blues in Super Rugby over the last 4 or 5 years. And we've seen that can be quite a big hurdle to jump. On the other hand, the Waratahs were very, very average. I think we were seeing the effects from he who shall not be named, that coached the Waratahs for the last few years, who butchered not only a lot of careers from the starting side, but also the next generation by not getting them any game time as well. And he won't be mentioned again, even though he wasn't this time.
It was all a master plan from across the ditch.
That's right. But Penny came in and has put it right. Has put it right.
Also part of the plan, or I don't know. We'll see.
Look, I think something we're gonna note from Penny here is the chance to actually give these younger players the opportunity and give them a crack, something that has been notably missing from the Waratahs. So the Reds have been good at building their younger players, giving them opportunities. And that's something that you can see there. Maybe they're lacking a little bit of that experience, but the young players have been really, really solid. The Tars, I mean, they've now lost Kurtley Beale, so they've lost a little bit of that experience. They've lost Damien Fitzpatrick. So a few of the younger guys are going to be thrown into the deep end a little bit more with their maturity and control of the game. Will Harrison's one that comes to mind. But look, it's a game I'm generally really excited for. With Beale gone, Maddox is going to be shifting to fullback, his preferred position. He's adamant that that's where he wants to be playing, and he wants to be playing for the Wallabies, even though there's been rumours out that he might be looking offshore, especially to the US. But the thing that the Tars need is they need some grunt. The Reds have just lost a little bit of that grunt. The Tars, I think if they're going to bring that grunt in, there's a few guys that hopefully can offer that, because a lot of the starters just have not been doing it this year. I'd love to see someone like Will Harris have a chance. He's the number 8.
Harry Wilson?
No, Will Harris.
Will Harrison?
No, Will Harris. He's the guy that kept Harry Wilson, for the people that know him from the Reds. He kept him out of his position for the Aussie under-20s, shifting him and relegating him to the blindside flank.
Just last year.
Yeah, just last year. So he's got a lot of potential, and he's quite a physical, aggressive player, something that I think the Waratahs really need. Also, Pat Tarfer, he's quite an aggressive, physical player as well. The issue is both of them can play lock, but neither of them really have the height for lock.
Oh, Pat Tarfer, I think, is a lock. I'll be honest.
I mean, he's like probably, 196, 195, something like that.
I don't know. I didn't think it either until I went and saw him in a Waratahs B-side game. He's big enough to be a lock, and I think he's a bit too slow. I think he is a lock.
So he's big enough compared to you?
Look, the other thing is, if Will Harris is a really good line-out jumper, he could be the next Ned Hannigan.
Oh, Ned Hannigan is back. There's one thing. So here you go. Pat Tarfer is 194. So that is very short for a lock like this.
Mitchell Brown is about the same height for the Chiefs, and I think he's a 6-playing lock. I just don't see him as a starting lock at all, despite the fact that they've been playing him there. So I'm with you. I don't think that's big enough.
It's also because I just want him to play lock, because who the hell do we playing lock? So.
Tom Staniforth, mate.
Yeah, mate, he's Benjamin Button. He's aging backwards. It seems like 90 years old.
Yeah, agreed. The big question mark over the Waratahs right now is the outside centre channel. I just don't think that they've had anyone really grab that and run with it. I know, Nelson, you were thinking that there's some good raps on a young man, young?
Middle 20s,
mid-20s, yeah. Nick Maloof. coming across back as the vice captain from the Sevens side.
Yeah, Nick Maloof was a flanker that transitioned into the outside backs, really wanted to give a chance his arm at Sevens, but prior to that, played a few years for Leicester over in the English League. He was there for 2 seasons, playing wing/outside centre. And I think he brings leadership, something that the team needs, especially after losing Beale. He brings maturity, and he's quite a solid player. He knows how to throw the ball around. He knows how to defend. He's got a lot of those skills that I'd love to see actually get given a chance. I don't think we'll see him at the very start of the season, but he's a guy that, I mean, realistically could have a chance to work his way into this squad. Lalakai Foketi is someone that's been playing there a little bit. Alex Newsom's been playing there a little bit, but neither of them have really locked down that 13 jersey.
Yeah, that's good. And I think, look, you touched on it before about Rob Penny trying new players. And, man, if he had a license to be able to do that before as a new coach with a young team, new coach, young team, new competition, like he'll try. He can try anything.
There's got to be nothing stopping him after that first part of the season, right? I mean, he was chancing his arm a little bit, and there's not much expected from him now. So, I mean, there's no better time to bring in these guys. We saw the Lions do it. Most notably, I think, when they weren't having performances go their way, just bringing in some of the younger players, and hopefully it's something we see more of at the Tars.
Yeah.
Great.
The other question is, what do the Reds do with their second row now that they've lost their first choice and third choice lock? Angus Blythe will obviously start there, but Isaac Rodder's their pillar, and I believe their line-out caller as well. Lukan Salakai-Loto is the obvious option. I think they just have to push him into the locking jersey for this year as well, at least while they try and develop some of their younger guys. I know they've brought in Smith, who is Smith. Either way, anyway, they've brought in a mid-20s bloke that has been on the fringe of a couple of different squads that is obviously not going to be challenging for a starter role. So Salakai-Loto, Angus Blythe for me will start, and then obviously that opens up the 6 channel for who knows who. Fraser McBride, I know, is Nelson's favourite pick, because if you ask Nelson, open side flankers should play in every position.
Yeah, pretty much. No, look, there's 2 people that could potentially fill that role. You could see Wright shift across to blindside flank, and his McDonald's related brother, Mick Wright, coming in to open side flanker. Or we could also see another potential, Angus Scott Young, filling that 6th void. He's been there for a little while. I think he's a quality player, but I really just want to see Mick Wright have a crack.
I have to say, I'd be surprised if we don't see Angus Scott Young, but I previously had a bet with you, Nelson, about whether we would see McWright and Liam Wright on the field at the same time in 6 and 7. I don't think I'll retake that bet up with you again now.
It's going to happen, mate. It's definitely.
Look, the other question is, who the hell is the hookers for the Waratahs? Robbie Abel is one option.
Tuala?
Can we have Hugh Roach back? He got red carded for the Crusaders, but he got to play with them for a while. Can he come back?
Honestly, that's probably quite a good thing. Like bring Roachy back. We've got.
I always liked him.
Robbie Abel, Robbie Abel's brother.
Hopefully he was over there just taking notes. Do you know what I mean? Just like recording training or something. That's what I would have been doing. But sell that IP anywhere. It's a
Mate, we all know that spending 3 months with the Crusaders is spending 20 years with the Waratahs. So
that's fair.
He's better than he's ever been.
Yeah.
Very good. All right. Well, does that round us out for the Tars and Reds?
I think so.
Excited about that one. Are we calling? Who do we think?
Reds.
Waratahs, 11 in a row, mate. You can't break a streak.
You can, and they will. Hopefully not.
I have to say, I'm also going to go with the Reds. Sorry, Harry.
Turmoil, mate. There's turmoil in Queensland.
Look, I will put a little note here that if we see a few new players starting for the Tars with aggressive players, maybe there's been a lot of turmoil there for the Reds. If we do see Pat Tarfer in the lineup, if we do see Will Harris in the lineup, maybe we'll have some aggression and guys that really, really want it. But some of the guys just have not been wanting it. So if they're in the squad, the lineup from before, we're not going to see it.
I just can't wait for Angus Bell versus Tupou. That's gonna
Yep.
really get my rocks off.
That side of the scrum just.
Let's kick on, gentlemen.
I agree. Let's do it. All right. Back to New Zealand rugby. Super Rugby Aotearoa. Highlanders and the Crusaders under the roof in Dunedin. Going to be the best footy. Cannot wait. This game always delivers. It's always extremely physical and a lot of free running rugby. So going to be very exciting. Returning for this one, Josh Ioane, coming back from a groin injury.
I mean, he's very close to being confirmed. He's got to get through some kicking this week. But if he does that, then he should be fine.
Excellent. And as we touched on earlier, that we would expect to see Mitch Hunt back to 15 because they have had very limited success so far with Gregory and Nareki both playing a game each there. So
Corey.
Croy, sorry. What was I saying? Oh, Nareki, yeah, Corey. Yeah. Corey, my bad. Excellent. All right, Harry, do you want to rip into this one for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So Sam Gilbert, obviously, we expect he won't be around considering the struggle walking around that knee. So maybe Josh McCain on that wing is the obvious sub. Push Mitch Hunt, or maybe Gregory to the wing, but I think he needs to have a sit down after his performance.
What about Karate Kid?
I think he's injured.
Nabung, yeah. I think Gregory got sat down, both figuratively and literally.
Yeah. Look, it'll be played under the roof, and is there any better place to watch the Crusaders backline run around? I don't think so. So I don't know what to say other than watch out. Anybody playing the Crusaders in dry conditions, this is going to be absolute trouble. I don't want to defend them.
Are you two just going to put a tenner on every back in the Crusaders for first try scorer?
Anytime try scorer, yeah. Look, actually, I wouldn't mind defending them because they're so much better that I wouldn't actually put a hand on them. So I'd come off scot-free, but yeah, it wouldn't go well for me. Look, sure, David Havili gets a start. I know he's coming back from his injury, but he's played a few minutes now. Will Jordan has been exceptional. So who do you drop? I had this discussion with a few people over the weekend. I have no idea, Nels. I think we said Josh Goodhue's probably in the worst form, and he's still excellent.
Yeah,
Jack Goodhue.
Jack Goodhue, yeah.
Well, yeah, or Josh Goodhue. Look, I think it's hard. Havili's first choice is not going to be at inside centre. But if we were coaches and we're going based on form, he's the guy for me. Yeah. Which we're not coaches. All right. I think something that we'd love to see, Nehe Milner-Skara, he is not back yet, we think, for at least another week. But yeah, look, this Crusaders defense showed itself last week against a lot of flair with the Chiefs in the pouring rain. And as Harry touched on, the outside backs look really, really solid. So it's going to be scary. Highlanders have looked much improved with 6 tries. But yeah, look, for me, I just can't see where the Highlanders are going to get over the Crusaders here.
So 4 of their 6 tries were through the forwards, right? 3 from kind of in tight pick and goes, that kind of thing, and 1 from a rolling maul. And we saw the Chiefs try rolling maul attack against the Crusaders and literally not make a single meter off 3 attempts. So we throw that try out and then the other 3 in tight. I just don't believe the Crusaders give you that much space in tight to score points. So I can't see how the Highlanders score more than a try or 2 in this game. And basically the only way that means they can possibly win is if they can, number one, hold the Crusaders to not many, which is almost impossible, and score a lot of penalty kicks themselves. So it's going to come down to Mitch Hunt or Josh Ioane kicking very well. I expect Mitch Hunt.
The one avenue maybe that's going to work in their favour here is if they have both of those guys playing, both guys with the ability to kick and kick for field position. If they're doing that a lot, they've been so solid in the scrum. They've had 27 out of 28 lineouts to date in this competition. So that's probably their strong suit. If you're not coaching them to say, let's kick to the corners, let's back our line out, because how solid it has been with Pari Parkinson and the rest of those boys there, I don't know what you're going to be trying to do against these guys. Don't kick the ball in field. It's not going to work for you. Kick it out and back your line out.
I agree, and we said, Harry, it was amazing that the Highlanders added a rolling maul to their game that we hadn't previously seen, with Ash Dixon guest scoring a try in round 1. But I just don't see them overpowering the Crusaders with that.
One more point from there is, Harry and I did talk, though, although they're good at lineouts, you're not going to get a driving maul try against them.
Yeah.
You just cannot get a driving ball try against the Crusaders. Actually, watching them on the weekend, they have a very different seeming defensive structure compared to normal. They're not setting, 3-2-1 and forming that forward pack, that scrum to almost to defensively block it. They spread and try to just cover that whole defensive, cover that whole maul. Yep.
And I mentioned Tom Christie as well. We haven't heard where he's at. I believe he's injured, but I've heard nothing. So I haven't even put it on the casualty ward. But I've just heard some rumours about that. I think that might be all it is, just because he's not on the team. But surely we're going to see more out of Fetu Douglas, Billy Harmon, and Cullen Grace. They need some. I remember Billy Harmon making an incredible catch and pass on in the first game, but otherwise, really, they haven't been overly effective for me compared to some of the other players, some of the other teams. And considering Michaeli Tu'u, and Frizzell's games, in the last game, I think those two outside backs and back rowers and Dylan Hunt as well. That's a real advantage for the Highlanders at the moment as well.
Yeah, Vetu particularly has been, I feel like he's been very quiet. He's normally the workman. Like, he's not normally very flashy, but you just normally notice him still getting through a lot of work, and I haven't as much seen so much.
I agree.
Crusaders by 12?
Yep. More.
No, I'm going to go by more. Yeah, I'm going to go Crusaders by 17. There we go.
They only beat the Chiefs by 5 on the weekend. The Highlanders beat them.
Under the roof, mate. Sever Reese 2 tries at least.
Okay, I'm going to say 15.
So you reckon under the roof is better for the Crusaders than in the rain?
Well, Crusaders dominated in the rain, so
they're going to everywhere.
I think every set of conditions favours the Crusaders, but under the roof is best. Yes. All right. Now, very good. Let's move on to the other game. So following that, back-to-back games on Saturday. How good. Brumbies and the Rebels. This is Canberra, GIO Stadium. If the Rebels left, I think they're leaving tomorrow, leaving very early to try and...
they left last Friday.
Oh, sorry, they left last Friday. That's right. They left super early just to escape Victoria, and hopefully they're the only Victorians being allowed up into New South Wales. But
and as you're obviously aware, I mean, number one, Canberra not part of New South Wales. Craig's, just to put that out there.
I think you'll find it's inside New South Wales, though. They have to.
Righto. And on top of that, for those that aren't in Australia, Victoria have had a breakout of the coronavirus at the moment. I think 70-something new cases today, so 40-something yesterday. So at the moment, Australia's panicked a little bit about what's going on in Melbourne. So that's why they've left. And I think that could definitely serve as a good point for them to hopefully come together and have a chance to really change their culture and get close.
Yeah, they're going to be on tour, and they're going to be, relying on each other a lot through this period of time. I can't see them heading back to Melbourne anytime soon. Queensland have actually shut down basically their systems and their borders to a lot of places. But if you're a team and you're playing someone from Melbourne, or you're playing in Melbourne, things like that, they're going to just force you to have a 2-week lockdown. So that's why the Rebels moved early, preempted that. So make sure that they didn't have to worry about that 2-week, lockdown.
Yep.
And I was going to wait till the dessert, but it seems relevant now. There was Beth Newman, unfortunately now ex-Rugby Australia journo, has just been saying that the Rebels round 2 home game has obviously already been relocated, but it's looking like the following 2 games, so July 24 against the Tars, August 7th against the Brumbies, are very likely looking at being moved now as well. So I hope Rugby AU has kind of, made alternate plans, like as they've set this competition up. Obviously, they've only been recently setting up fixtures, but
they're going ahead with the match in New South Wales. It's they've already said the next week's match against the Reds will be in New South Wales. So I think it's not going to be too tricky to relocate it. There's not going to be big crowds. So I don't think it'll be too big an issue. I suppose we'll still be seeing at the same time. We won't be seeing what happened in the original part of the season where we had the double header, but they're looking also at swapping their match with New South Wales. So they're playing New South Wales, and if things change, then they get to play in Melbourne for the second fixture there.
Yep. So returning from this one, there's a lot of guys that could get a run this week. So first of all, Tom Banks has been nursing a foot injury. They expect him to be back this week. I don't think it's guaranteed, to be honest with you, with the language that we're using. that seems likely that he will play. Also, Luke Jones, we didn't see any of him at the start of the competition this year. They kept saying back injury, back injury, back injury. Unlike Sam Cane, he feels pain, and he didn't get back from his back injury.
He plagued my fantasy bench, yep.
That's right. So hopefully he's back starting for them before we're going overseas at the end of the year. Also, Reece Hodge with his groin injury, and Campbell Magnay, who was injured, but I'm not sure what happened to him. He got pulled late in round 4, I think it was. The two of those guys that we assume will be fit to add a lot of depth to the back line for the Rebels.
Campbell Magnay, a player we're all very excited about. We all really would like to see more of him.
And Reece Hodge in form as well, to be fair.
Yep.
On top of that, just to top it off before we move on to some more specifics, Lewis Hollands, the ex-captain and playmaker, 25-year-old from Rugby Sevens Australia, fantastic player.
Weapon.
Anderson and Gerald Skelton, both Rugby Sevens players as well. I think Gerald Skelton especially has big raps on his physical ability as a loose forward as well.
Yep.
And Folau Fainga is back from the never-ending toe injury. Is that what it was?
Yeah, it was toe or foot, something like that.
Yeah.
Toe. Well, I think we'll touch on those Sevens players a little bit more in dessert. But look, the Brumbies are the clear pace setters, as they tend to be every year in this Australian conference. Nick Frost, Caden Neville are both injured. Darcy Swain will get his chance alongside Murray Douglas. And we also see the return of ex-Brumby Ben Hine, who was playing with the Sunwolves. He got picked up straight away from the Brumbies as soon as they had the opportunity. But look, I don't think we'll see him coming into the starting side. He'll probably be on the bench replacing Neville.
He's another guy he's a back rower, not a lock. I'm sorry, I don't see where he's coming from. He's 1.94 m as well.
He's definitely a back rower. He's played number 8 most of the time for the Brums, but I think he's been around the Brumbies environment for a long time, which is why they snapped him straight back up. But
he's the same height as Pat Taffa, right?
He's a lot smaller. He's smaller than Pat Taffa, quite a lot smaller.
He's the exact same height.
Yeah.
There's not just height, mate. Okay, there's weight, and there's more to it. But no, he made two starts to his career at the Brumbies, and both of them ended in like horrific injury, like within the first 20 minutes. I don't know if you guys remember. So he's had an awful lot of bad luck.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So we're also, even though that's what we're sort of talking about, that there's a few changes in the locks, you're still going to see a really solid Brumby scrum. They've just been immovable whenever they've had the ball in the scrum, and defensively they're really solid as well. And you just expect them to monster the maul as well. Line outs, Folau Fainga, you heard it when you listened to our podcast with Allan and Alaalatoa. The man just thrives on scoring tries off the back of the driving maul. He actually was equal top try scorer for Super Rugby, not just the Australian Conference, but Super Rugby wide at the first sort of part of this year. And that's with missing, I think it was the last 3 games out of 7 rounds, yet he was still equal. Pretty amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Crazy. Do you think he'll go early in our draft on this Thursday, Nelson?
Most definitely.
I don't think he'll get to number 8, put it that way.
Hopefully he does.
Very good. Yes, well, a player I'm excited about. We'll get to. I was going to prop Nelson on the back row, but before we get there, let's talk about the important positions. The very young and exciting prop, Shambek Lavui, tight head prop, Aussie under 20s, a couple of years at the in the TARS system. Didn't really get a run, but was also injured, and he's come down to the Brumbies. And could there be a better place to be a tight head understudy than under captain of the Brumbies, Alaalatoa? He's in a very similar mould. Shambek Lavui is one of these kind of incredibly athletic tight head props. Got some absolute pace on him and some skills. And so I'm hoping that, we see him he's apparently fit as a fiddle. So the
biggest thing out of this is, although Canberra is very cold, they don't make the pudgy players. They don't ever make the props. They always take them from New South Wales. They've got Allan Alaalatoa, Scotty CO. They've got now Shambek Lavui, and they got Slipper, I think, from Queensland.
That's it. Well, Vui was actually at the Force to start with as well, I think. I think Vui was at the Force, and then... Yeah. But anyway, so the other reason I'm excited about him is that Les Macon, who has been Allan's backup to come on and play about 2 minutes an average of a game, because Allan plays 78 minutes. He's injured and out for the season. So, yes, hopefully Shambeklavui should be thrust straight into it and see some time. So it's not like they were really had a poor front row. They've now got CO, Slipper, Alaalatoa, and Vui. I mean, that's the dream.
Good to see. In terms of the back row, the Brumbies are spoiled for choice. I mean, we could spend ages on these, but I'll try not to. Valentini and Samu have just been really rock solid for them. Valentini is an absolute beast covering either 6 or 8. Samu's an absolute beast covering 6 or 8 as well. I think they're two right now that we have to assume are locked in. It's going to be a fight for that 7 jersey between Miller and Cusack. I don't see Cusack taking that jersey from Miller. I think he's been a perfect combination with the other two there starting at 7, and he's what they need as that 7 role. Cusack saying himself he thinks it's going to be hard for himself to work back into that starting side. You've also got McCaffrey, who's now working his way back in. You've got Brown, who we haven't seen for a little while. So it'll be probably a fight for me with McCaffrey and Cusack to cover that bench spot. And I think at the moment, against my gut, I think Cusack's going to be the guy to take it, because they want to have someone that can cover that 7 jersey a little bit more, where you've got the 2 other guys, your 6 and 8, that are pretty interchangeable.
I'll agree with that. Yep. Very good.
Reece Hodge, he's a guy that we've talked about a lot. He needs to find himself his position. He should be fit. We assume that Campbell Magnay's fit. But Reece Hodge he's been one of those guys that he just seems to be too versatile, and he hasn't been able to lock himself down. So hopefully we get to see him having a good crack and locking himself in.
Yeah, we mentioned him in Campbell Magnay as well. So, and on top of that, Andrew Kellaway, who didn't start in the starting side at the start of the original Super Rugby as well. So Kellaway took every opportunity, and there was a lot of buzz about his form as well. He's obviously holds the record, I believe, for the most tries ever in the Under-20s World Cup.
Also, equal top try scorer in the first half of the season. Yeah,
he had to be one of the form players in the Australian Conference.
Definitely was.
So that's the thing, right? Like if we assume he has to get a start in his wing, then where does Reece Hodge, Andrew Kellaway, Reece Hodge, Campbell Magnay, and Tom English fit in? There's probably one position for those 3 guys, and who's going to get the outside centre role? My gut feeling is you just put Reece Hodge there because of how versatile he is, and I think there's a lot of people that believe that could be his best position. But geez, there's a lot of competition for that backline spot.
Also, with that, the new laws around the 40-20, 50-22, those sorts of things, the ability to have a number of kickers in your side is going to be massive. So that's something that he offers above the other guys.
Yeah, and having said that as well, Noah Alessio, like pretty big benefit to having someone kicking like him as well. But mind you, on the flip side of things, you have probably the most experienced 5'8" out of any of the teams as well over in the Rebels.
And the man himself, who I think tabled a few of these different laws.
Yes, right in the minute himself as the voice of all rugby positions in the game at the moment. Yeah,
fantastic. All right, and now let's move on to the
Brumbies by how much, guys?
Brumbies thank you. Sorry. Brumbies by I don't know. I got 21.
Oh, that's big. I'm going to say Brumbies by 17.
15.
I like having the outlier. I'm a big fan of that.
Always out.
Hurricanes, gentlemen.
Yeah, so in the returns column, we've got Solomon Alamalo returning from being sick, and Tupo Uvaya, who is also returning from
I'm sick of not seeing him play, so let's get him on the field.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Excellent. This is pretty obvious, has to be said. Both teams desperately need the win. Last week they were saying it's not down and out yet for the Chiefs. This week it will be down and out for the Chiefs if they don't get a win on the board. They're down 3-0. Canes are down 2-0. They'll be desperate.
Yeah, I think Sam Cane made a big difference for them coming back in. You know, just before the COVID break, the Hurricanes got up 24-27. But I don't really see that happening again. Chiefs at home, I think, is really big. Once those cowbells start ringing it is hard to kind of get the momentum back from the Chiefs as the Chiefs mana kicks in. I think Aaron Cruden will probably be better for watching that game back and realising that he's throwing a little bit too much ball away, and that kicking is particularly important in the game at the moment. And I think the forward pack with Sam Cane is just a different beast, and I'm starting to appreciate his leadership a little bit more as well, to be honest.
It's true. The Hurricanes have been hit this week with assistant coach Carlos Spencer has been let go. So that's just he's finishing up his contract early. So stopping.
We'll take him to any of our teams.
Yeah, Carlos, mate, come over here, please. Thank you.
So you're saying without Carlos Spencer, we're not going to see any more trick plays from Garden Basher? No more.
No more trick plays.
No more.
But look, very good. What an exciting player. Well, no, speaking of Garden Bishop, I think the reason that the Hurricanes aren't winning is twofold. One is they've just been suffering severely from a severe loss of depletion of Barretts. They've lost two Barretts.
Yeah, that's fair.
But yeah, speaking of Garden Bishop, I think Geordie Barrett's straight in there at 10. Chase Tait has been doing a fine job at 15, as I've said. So
that's a big call. Let's just put it out there.
I think it's a big call, but if you were Geordie Barrett, as if you wouldn't want to, just be like, give me the reins, let me take over.
I do agree. It's a big call.
Bowden Barrett's at 15 now anyway, so he's taking a spot. Geordie may as well play 10.
He's gone, look, you made the All Blacks before, Geordie. See if you can make it in another position, mate. Try that on.
Am I right in thinking that Geordie played 10 for the All Blacks more recently than Bowden?
I think he did.
Probably. Probably.
Wowzers.
There you go. So you heard it here first. Geordie Barrett coming back from his shoulder injury will play at 10 for the Hurricanes.
You put your house on it.
Yeah. Has there been any update on that injury?
No, but it's about 4 weeks after an instability injury. I still think he's pushed to get back. Watch the Kiwis prove me wrong again, but it will be a relatively quick recovery if he's back now.
Okay. And now, look, I haven't stayed on top of the news. I did know that Tyler Ardron has signed overseas, but I didn't realise that was with immediate effect. I mean, I guess it makes sense. But...
Yeah, the announcement was him and Timur Manu, but Manu goes at the end of the year.
Okay, so it's not like the Chiefs need a lock right now or anything. But no, that's disappointing. I was looking forward to seeing him return to play. But
they need more than a lock. They need Alaalatoa to start, which hopefully we'll see. They need Tokiaho to come back into that starting side. But yeah, hopefully DMAC just continues to influence the game like we know he can. He just needs some people around him to back him up, and I think Alaalatoa is probably the guy that we can expect to do it.
Yeah, yep. I think so. And they pointed out that Anton Leonard-Brown had a huge amount of carries in the first couple of weeks of the year. I think everything is on his shoulders at the moment. It'd be really good to see DMAC in at first receiver a lot.
Yep.
And like you said, Alaalatoa taking a little bit more as well.
Yep.
We haven't really said much about the Hurricanes. We got any points about them? I mean, I think
no.
It's really going to be about the battle of the backs, but I think this is going to be one where the Chiefs forward pack will really get on top of the Hurricanes.
Well,
I think the Hurricanes forward pack has been lacking. So their back row just doesn't really get much done. I mean, with Artie not being back to Artie, I mean, if Artie suddenly turns up, he can carry the whole team. But
I don't think we'll expect Artie to turn back up to be Artie. I think it's going to take him time, as we've said before, to work back into it. But there's definitely a tough ask for them in this match. Between him and Karifi, I mean, they really need to do some work around the breakdown and some solid defensive work.
I think they just need to get the balance of their forward pack right. I think they're lacking set piece prowess, especially in the second row, and I don't think Bad Fafita is the answer to that. I think he's probably a better 6. Get Scott Scrafton back in the starting locks, and then I think the rest of the back row can kind of sort itself out. You have to have a Reed Princep in there, maybe Gareth Evans, one of those two at 8, and then Artie Severe at 7. Give Karifi the chance just to go mental for the last 20 minutes.
I agree.
They just need to get that balance right, and I think it hasn't quite been there yet.
They've gone too much down the pathway of what Australia Rugby normally does, and they go, let's just put a couple overside flankers on. Look. And we've said it before with New Zealand that they've got the best, two of the best flankers in the world, and they don't play them together. Yet for some reason, we've moved Artie Sevilla into number 8. and try to put another player then into that starting role, get him back into that 7 jersey.
In terms of playing players out of position at the same time, my solution is very simple. They just need to have Dane Coles and Asafo Mua on the field at the same time. I don't care. Just move one of them to flanker. Don't care which one, but get them on.
The other thing is with Ardisavir not being at 100%, the thing he's lacking is a little bit of that aggression to contact. Even more reason to play him at open side flanker so he can make his tackles and push his work rate around. They talked about moving him to number 8 so that he can have more of a run. Well, let him get his confidence back in a position he's comfortable with.
I agree.
Then shift him back to 8.
Yep.
Very good. All right. So it sounds like we're all backing the Chiefs to win this one. That's the overwhelming? And how much by? Harry, we'll go with you first.
Yeah. Okay. Good. I reckon that they're going to do it relatively comfortably after last week's showing. I reckon they're going to do it by 14.
14. Oof.
I'm not. Yeah. I'm pretty confident that it will be more than a 1.1 score win. I'm going to go for 12 points.
And I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to go 10. I reckon 10. So I'm going to take the low liar on this one.
Why is that the opposite? You did the exact same thing. Take 2 points off.
I just mean I've had the high. I've got the high outlier on every.
All right, let's kick on, gentlemen. Dessert. This has been a long pod. The people are getting weary.
Has it? Well, so we add in another conference and we just lose all track of time. All right. Well, for dessert, we are going to preview Super Rugby AU. So basically just a very quick touch on any players that we haven't mentioned. Perhaps we'll just a quick run through on the Western Force squad to remind everyone who is there. And then just any players we think will stand out and excel, any names you might need to know about, and I guess how we think the Aussie conference will shape up. So, Nels, do you want to take us through the Force? Or Harry, sorry?
Harry will. Thank you. Nelson doesn't want to. He's disgusted by the Force.
No one wants to be honest with you.
So, okay, these are the names that stood out to me. So, first of all, from the existing squad, obviously, Captain Ian Pryor plays 9 and 10. If you have a halfback that can do that and kick some goals, very, very valuable.
So does TJ Perinara these days.
Yeah, a little bit. That's true. Not bad.
Yeah, every time when Garden Batchup goes off and then he plays 10 at the end of the game.
Andrew Reddy is over there, the old Queensland Reds hooker as well. Not old, but ex-Queensland Reds hooker. Heath Testman on the bench, who is talking about still trying to push for a Wallabies spot as well, but obviously I think he'll come off the bench. They've got some old heads at prop. Chris Heiberg from South Africa, Kieran Longbottom, Greg Holmes, a lot of older fellas there, but some good experienced heads to support probably Reddy. Then you got Jeremy Thrush, the ex-Hurricanes player, Fergus Lee Warner, who's a name that a lot, maybe not a lot of other people would know, but Nelson and I, as gigantic Horned Army fans, and by Horned Army fans, I mean this support group for the Western Sydney Rams, Great Western Sydney Rams. We are the founders of the Horned Army, so we know all their players. And Fergus Lee Warner was a big, versatile, mobile lock that could have played 6. We were a big fan of him when he played for the NRC. Obviously, maybe not quite as much space in this competition, but very excited to see him get a run.
And do you guys want to plug selling your Horned Army beanies
that you have? 200 Sydney Rams helmet that doesn't exist anymore. No, we've got about 1,500 left.
Limited edition.
If you want an orange beanie with blue horns, we can take off the logo.
That's it.
Just costs a bit more.
Anyway, just wait a few more years; it'll be vintage, boys. All good.
Number 8, Brian Ardstander, a very good player. Jack McGregor and Nick Juice, the two playmakers in the team at 10 and 15, 15 and 10 respectively. Henry Tafu, the centre from the Reds and also from Samoa as well. Very good centre. I reckon he'll play probably 13 in this team, but we'll see. Brad Lacey, very good physical winger. Just a great player. One of the few players in this squad that have been mentioned as potential Wallabies. Palmer Fowl, getting a little bit older now, not quite lived up to his potential, but just an excellent outside back as well.
Love him.
Player.
Yep. Jonah Placid, ex-Reds fullback as well, Western Force player.
Who he'd spent a few years with Toulon. He's quite a good player.
Yep. And on top of that, some new signings. You've got Jono Lance, who's won 2 Australian Super Rugby titles, so with the Reds and the Waratahs. Don't know if anyone else has done that. On top of that, Carl Godwin, who is a 10, 12, 13. I reckon he's
coming home.
He is. And again, I reckon he's probably my top player from this side, Kyle Godwin. I expect him to pair up with Henry Tafu in their centres, and I'd be surprised if that didn't happen. Ollie Atkins, their 27-year-old lock, has been playing over in England for a few years and has a fair bit of experience for him. Jordan Luke, an older player coming back, and Kane Kateka as well should get a real good start.
Not a local boy.
A local boy that will most likely take the spot from Chris Alcock, who has just retired as well.
He's Alcock!
Yeah, so a lot of potential there. But look, the one thing I would say as well, worth noting for fantasy managers, John O'Lance, Carl Godwin, Ollie Atkins that have just come back into the squad, they had to serve a 2-week isolation. They're actually probably starting training this week, so maybe they won't play round 1.
Very good. The player I like, who I'm excited about, is Henry Stowers, or Stowers. I forget how you say his surname. Yeah. But Kiwi under 20, hard-hitting back rower. Big fan of him.
Absolutely.
For the Waratahs, there's not as much to touch on. I suppose we've already really talked about it with Damien Fitzpatrick retiring and Curtly Beale going overseas. The biggest thing here to note is he who shall not be named as previous coach really stuffed around Mac Mason. He was quite a talented young 10 who didn't get given much nurturing or much opportunity at the Tars. And now it seems that he is not only on the outer for the Waratahs, with Ben Donaldson and Will Harrison there, it looks like he's been told he can go back, stay in Queensland and work on his family farm because next year he is not going to get another Waratahs contract. So he is not training with them. So that's going to be a bit of a disappointment.
So it's Donaldson that is Will Harrison's backup, right? The other under 20 player. Yeah. Another excellent player.
15/10 as well. Yeah. He's a bit more, he can play 15.
Both excellent young players. From the Brums, Blake Geneva, we haven't mentioned, he never starts anyway.
Thank you. The joke had to be said.
It's got to be.
He's released on compassionate grounds and then within a few days signed with Leicester. So
at least to go to Queensland to spend time with his family.
Yeah.
Then signing overseas.
Yeah, beautiful. For the Reds, we've mentioned most of those guys as well, but you have got Matt Greeley, Josh Fluke, Kalani Thomas and Ryan Smith, a lot of talented youngsters there. Ryan Smith, the older head at lock.
Does anyone else think those don't sound like real names? Mac Greeley, Josh Fluke, like just where do they come up with these?
We know you're not as big a fan of Aussie rugby as us. Mac Greeley is actually quite an interesting young player. And I don't necessarily see the same style, but they're talking about him the same as that. Who's the Kiwi 10 that's playing rugby league that wants to come back and play for the All Blacks, but he's playing for Australia. Oh, yeah. They're saying like he's quite an agile attacking 10, and he actually looks quite promising. Josh Fluke was the captain of the school side last year. Kalani Thomas is a good agile 9. So they've got a few options there replacing some of the guys that have left.
Yeah, but for example, Ryan Smith, I mean, that's just when you're making up, filling in a form, you're making up a name, John Smith, and you're like, oh, hold on, I can't put John, you go to Ryan Smith. That's the alternative there. So
yeah, he was quite positive, quite good in the NRC previously as well.
Yeah, 23 years old. They just needed a lock, and I think that's it. You can't get another young player in that team. So I think they went for someone that's been on the fringes for a few years and should just be have a little bit more experience.
For the Rebels,
excellent. All right, I was going to say the $1 million question: the Rebels. How do they? We've just talked about how competitive it is in that back line. How do we fit in Lewis Holland, Lockie Anderson, and Gerald Skelton?
I don't think we see these guys rushed into the squad. As we said, especially in the backs, they've got quite a few people to cover a lot of different positions. The people that I'm most excited to see have a crack is Louis Holland. Louis Holland. He is... he could probably pay 10, 12, 15. He's not only a really agile player, this player can throw a dart, a pass, 2-man, 3-man cut out, hit the guy in the chest. Something that a lot of the players that have been training with him saying his pass just is absolutely outrageous and faster passes than anyone else in the team. He's also just been slowing drop goals from 15 metres out like it's absolutely nothing. Videos have been surfacing on that.
Yeah, nice. So plenty of players to look forward to. Cargie, what do you rank the Aussie teams in Super Rugby AU?
That's a very good question. Well, I'll start with the very simple. Number 1 will be the ACT Brumbies.
Does anyone disagree with that?
No dramas there.
That's a gimme.
Following that, it gets more interesting. I'm going to go ahead and put the Force at number 5. So just to be clear, just spicing it up. And then in the middle order, I'm going to actually go Brumbies. I'm going to say the Reds are going to come in second. I'm going to say the tough one between the Tars and the Rebels. Tars are bloody awful.
Look at you, mate.
All right, I'm gonna say I don't want to, but I'm gonna say Tars then Rebs, and that's just because I love Angus Bell.
Okay.
I'm going to go, look, I think Brumbies obviously first. Western Force, just for the unknown, you have to put them last, but who knows? I would love to see them upset a few teams. I'm going to say the Reds are being disrupted a lot by what's going on off the field. The Rebels are the team that are going to have to be shipped around and changing where they're playing every single fixture. They're going to be on the road constantly. So that pushes the Waratahs up to number 2.
Hi, mate.
Wowzers. All right.
Hi.
The Reds to number 3 and the Rebels to 4.
I didn't listen to Cargie. I don't listen to him when he talks, but I'm going to say the Brumbies are definitely going to take out first place. I think you said Red second place.
I did.
Sadly, I think Red second place. I just think they've got too much flair there, and I do think the shipping around of the Melbourne Rebels is going to prove too much. So I think the Melbourne Rebels will slide into third. I think I'd love to say that the Force will take the Tars, which I do think there's a potential there. I think Harry's crazy to put Tars in second place. He's definitely got his blue glasses on, but I think the Tars will come in fourth. And the main reason is I think there's a lot of changes for the Force. And right now, they don't know when they're going home. They're playing their games away from home. They've been in Newcastle for a while.
4 weeks, they said second half of the season.
They have not locked in that they can play home games. They have home games scheduled, but they're not sure if they can actually go over and play in Western Australia.
They've basically got all the money in Western Australia to try and sway the government.
Okay, mate.
That's true. The only team getting paid full salaries.
Yeah. I think it's going to be too much of an ask for them, but I wouldn't be surprised if they beat the Tars.
Very good. That was the most roundabout way of ranking 1 to 5. All three of us just did. We know, like 1, 5, 4, 3, whatever. But anyway, we hope you got that. If you stayed with us long enough, then you've probably been, you're able to translate that kind of stuff.
I think that's going to podcast, Craigs, is a lack of accountability, and we figure if we do it that way, no one knows what we actually ever said.
Yeah, exactly. We got it written on the spreadsheet, but we didn't type it in.
Yeah,
so we can't be wrong.
If you're still listening, tweet at us what our rankings were 1 to 5, because then we'll have a good record of it as well. But,
and let us know your rankings 1 to 5. That's probably helpful.
That's it. Very good. All right, lads. Pod's long enough. That's going to do it for us. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next week with probably the longest pod we've ever done. With
oh yeah, stay slutty.
Laters.